language that you normally speak in is German. Has anyone talked in German once?
I once went to Germany.
Really? I know. I talked with your mom and your dad and they told you about it. Today, I'm going to share a story, you guys, about my grandfather, Jacob. That was my grandfather, Jacob, when he was a little boy. He was around, like in the picture, like 5 years old. Okay? But before I tell the story, I want to tell you guys what word he lived in what environment. So, a long time ago, there was a princess. She was called Katharina, and she was German. And she got married to a prince in Russia, and his name was Peter. And they really liked each other, so they got married, and then she went to Russia. But when she got there, she was like, oh, no one here speaks my language. Everyone is talking in Russian, and I don't know how to speak Russian, and I don't understand these people. So she was like, you know what, maybe I should take some of my people with me to Russia so I can have a community with them, so I can talk to them. And that's what she did. She was like, okay, everybody, listen up. Everyone who wants to come to Russia, everyone who wants to have his own field, can come here. And you know what? She was Christian. And she was like, you can go to church here. You can have your own little small village. You can teach your children how to love God and how to talk to Him. And you don't have to go to the military. So she offered all of these things to them. And a lot of Germans thought, oh, that is a great offer, right? Would you go to Russia if someone would tell you this? What do you think? Yeah? Maybe, right? So Germany at that time, they had a lot of problems. When they wanted to go to church, everyone was really, not angry, but they were suspicious of them. They were like, you believe in God? They were they didn't like it. And so a lot of German Christians, they moved to Russia. That was amazing. So a lot of people moved from Germany all the way to Russia to have their own churches or villages. Okay, but then there was a revolution. Who knows what a revolution is? Who knows that? Your name what again? Eunice. Yeah, what is a revolution?
It's like a war.
Yeah, it's something like a war. Like someone stands up and says, I don't want to live like this anymore. We have to change the government. We have to change the rules. We have to change everything. Yeah.
I actually know what a war is. So they're trying to go against it. They're kind of mad.
Yeah, and that's what they did. So a man stood up and said, we don't want to have this anymore. And you know what? The government was next. They didn't believe in God. And Katharina, she had no power at all anymore. She couldn't say, okay, you still can go to church, and you can still go to your own little school and pray to God and teach kids about God. But now they weren't allowed to, because the new government says everyone who believes in God, everyone who talks about God and prays to God, he has to go to prison. Okay? And this is when the story of my grandfather starts. He had a big family. He had 11 siblings. It was a big family. And in that time, when he had so many siblings, his father was a pastor. He still teach people about God. And the police got to know that. But he got into prison. He had to go to prison. They were nice to him. They had only a little bit of food. And it was really hard to live there. And so all the German Christians, and not even Christians, even just normal Germans that lived in Russia, everyone had to go to prison. And they had to live there, and some of them, they were taken away from their family. They weren't able to see their family ever again. But my grandfather's dad was younger. He was a really smart man. So the soldiers, the Russian soldiers, they saw that, and they were like, oh, maybe we can use them to, write some things down, and to, have certain rules written down. And my grandfather's dad, so Jacob's dad, he did that. He wrote all those things down, and he worked in prison for the Russian government, and that's why he got a little bit more bread, a little bit more water to eat, to drink. And that's how we had a little bit more, how do you say this?
freedom or
Yeah,
more.
freedom, even though he was in prison.
He kind of sounds like Joseph in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't it sound like that?
Sounds a bit like Joseph in the Bible. But you know, it wasn't easy. Even though he got no bread or no water, he didn't know what happened to his family. He was there all alone. But you remember, right? Jacob had 11 siblings. So all of his 12 kids and his wife, he didn't know what happened to them. But, you know, he trusted in God. And he trusted that God will take care of his family. And there will be some way to survive. But you know what happened to the family? This is Jacob's mom and all his siblings and Jacob again. They really found a solution. When the father got arrested, the Russian government took their house, all their belongings, every book, every little bowl, every cup. They took everything, and they were living on the street. But one woman had mercy with them. They said, you know what? Like if I let you live with me, the Russian government, they will see me as a spy. They will not like me. I will get like arrested too. But if you want to, you can live in my cow shed, right? And so the family really moved into a cow shed with all the cows in the back and lived there. 10 years after the father got arrested and they were still living in the cow shed, the father finally got to see his family. He got out of prison. He survived the prison, which was really rare. A lot of men got into prison, they didn't survive. But you know what? You might think, oh, nice, now everything is good, right? The fact that the father is back, but it got even worse. The Russian government still thought of all the Germans as spies. You know, they were like thinking, maybe they like travel information to Germany, or they have like some like really bad plans with us. And so everyone had to go into an exile. They were banished. They had to live in the forest, live on like potato fields, and had to work all day long. And so the mothers took their children to the field and worked from an early morning to a late evening. I hid some potatoes here in this room. So your goal or your game right now is to look for the potatoes. There's a story behind those potatoes. I think it's around like 15 potatoes maybe. So ready, set, go. Everybody look for potatoes.
I found one. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I have one.
All right.
Jacob's mother had like really thick hair. At the time they were living like in the fields and in the forest, there weren't much food, so they kind of had to starve. They were always hungry, so there was no food at all. So every time she like worked in the potato field, she took two potatoes and put them into her hair and braided it like that, and hid the potatoes in her hair so her kids have food. Isn't that a cool thing? Yeah. That's how they survived. And they weren't allowed to go to any other city. They were like working in a working city. Their relatives and other people, they were maybe in another working village, but they weren't allowed to go there. They had to stay in that little house they lived in. And then after 10 years again, the banishment was cancelled. And they weren't allowed to go like back to their own house like 20 years ago, because there were already some Russians living in. But they had the opportunity to go to Kazakhstan. Who knows Kazakhstan? Kazakhstan. It's somewhere around, yeah, I can see it. It's right here. So I had the opportunity to go from here all the way here. And in Kazakhstan, it's like a really warm country. It was like a really nice contrast or difference to Russia. Because in Russia, like most of the time, winter is so cold. It's like freezing. It's like just in Chicago. And in Kazakhstan, they were able to go to a school again, the kids. And the parents were allowed to go to church. But the government said, no kids allowed in church. They thought, if the kids don't go to church, they will not know anything about God. And they will not believe the parents. And the parents says, there's a God who loves you and who you can trust and pray to him, you can talk to him. And the teachers, every other week, they gathered all of the Christian kids and they were like, you know what, guys? There is no God. And they always told them, there is no God, there is no God, there is no God. Because they didn't want people to believe in God. And Jacob grew up. And he became a man and he got married and he had a lot of children. Look, this is Jacob. And this is his wife, Ackerman. It's a weird name, right? You probably haven't heard of that name before. But they got married. This is their wedding picture. They had 14 kids, but like unfortunately, one of the kids died when she was 14. One of their kids was my father. My father is John, and you see him right here. The next picture you got. Yeah, this is him. And he was really smart in math, but because the Christians in Kazakhstan, they weren't allowed to study, so he had to learn a craft job. But you know, he didn't really care. It was okay for him because he started to think about God, and he decided to live his life with God. Because like, you know, his parents, they lived with God and they believed in God, but he wanted to make his own decision to live with God, and that's what he did. At an age of 18, he finally decided to live his life with the God his mom and dad believed in. He committed all his sins to Jesus. What does that mean? What does it mean? Committed all his sins to Jesus. Yeah, exactly. He said, Jesus, I am so sorry, but one time I lied to my mom, and one time I wasn't really nice to my siblings, and you know what? Sometimes I really have bad thoughts, but I know that you died for me, and that you came back to life, and that you can take all of my sins away, and that I have a white heart, because he took all his sins away, and I want to invite you into my heart so we can start a life together. Yeah, we will. And then not being able to study, like I mentioned earlier, that was nothing compared to what Jesus did to him. So he was like, oh, that is okay. I'm okay with having an easy job and to work harder maybe, but at least I have Jesus in my heart. Around that time, the sister of his friend got baptized too. And after his military, he saw that she grew into a woman too. He was like, wow, she's quite pretty and she has quite some good cooking skills. And so he started to pick her up from work, and eventually they got married. This is my mom. She looks quite serious too. I think that's just the time they lived in. And this is her again. She was a really tiny and petite woman. Then finally, you remember they're originally Germans, right? They moved from Germany to Russia and then to Kazakhstan. And then in 1987, this is I don't know, maybe 30 years ago, a man was like, oh, these Germans, he was a German, live in Kazakhstan or in Russia, we have to get them back. They're our own people, we have to get them back. As soon as my mom and my dad heard that, my mom already had 3 children and she was pregnant with a 4th child. And they moved really quickly to Germany. And they couldn't believe it. When they got there, they were allowed to go to church and take their children with them. And the children, their kids, they were allowed to go study. And no teacher told them there is no God, there is no God. But my mom and dad heard a lot when they were in school, right? And they had 6 more kids. And the child number 8 was me. That is me, and that is my brother Jan. I had it really easy in school. I had I don't know, you might assume when you have it easy in school that you have a good relationship with your parents, right? Because you have good grades and you do good your homework. But I never really had a good relationship with my dad and with my mom either. And then my younger sister, Leonie, I never had a good relationship with her either. And so I tried to distract myself with reading. I love to read, and I read I don't know, I once went to vacation for 12 days and I read 14 books. I read a lot and I read fast, really fast. When I read, this might seem a little weird, I had a thing when I read something. It had I only stopped reading when there was something special about the number. For example, 1111. That is so like a special time, because it's like 4 times the 1. Or 933, because like 3 times 3 makes 9, right? And so I had like really weird thinking, and then like those like 2, 3, 4, or like 7 times 3 is 21. And why I tell you this, guys, is because I didn't even like only read books I really like, I don't know, like fantasy novels or like what is it, like love stories and stuff. I also read missionary books about like people, how they lived in like countries, and they prayed to God, and they like had so much experience with God, and they like experienced miracles with Him, and that made me wonder. I was like, who is that God, right? And then one time during Kidsland, I have that in Germany too, the teacher asked us if we want to like give our life to Jesus, if we want to invite Him to our heart, and if we want to live the life with only Jesus. And you know, I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, I want to do it. But it was not a special day, right? It was just some random days. I was like, maybe at that time I was 9 years old. Maybe at my 10th birthday, maybe I can give my heart at my 10th to Jesus at my 10th birthday, because then I can tell everyone that I started my life when I was exactly 10 years old. That's what I thought. And then on my 10th birthday, and then when it came to bedtime, I was lying in my bed and I thought about it. I was like, okay, I have to do it now, because otherwise I cannot tell people that I started my life with Jesus when I was 10, right? So I laid in bed and I came to God, but it was more like, I just said it really quick and really fast. And I think I really started my life with Jesus at that point, but it was just because I wanted to tell people. What did I want to tell people? Who can tell me that?
That you started your life again when you were 10?
Yeah, because I started my life with Jesus when I was 10. And this bothered me. There were like questions in my head, like, was it for real? Did I like really like started my life with Jesus when I was 10? And then next year, at the end of October, there was like a preacher coming, and it was like a big event. He preached for like an entire week throughout church. And he always asked at the end, he was like, who wants to give his heart to Jesus? Who wants to start his life with Jesus? And every time I was like sitting there, and I got this, like butterflies in my stomach. You know, I was like really like nervous, because I was thinking about it, like, did I start my life with Jesus? Did I do it yet? And then I asked a friend to come with me, and her friend like took me by her hand. And then we went to the preacher and we talked about it. And that day, I didn't even like pay much attention to it. But the day was the 11. Got a picture in your head. 11/1 of 2011. 2011. I was German, sorry. 2011. So it was 11/01/2011. So a lot of ones in the day where I finally really gave my heart to Jesus. And you know what? After starting a life with God, you may think, oh, probably her relationship with her parents or her younger sister got super duper good, right? You may think that. But it was still hard. I had to work on my relationship with my dad. I had to learn how to love them. And I had to really learn how to love my younger sister. Now we're like this close. Yeah, we're like really good siblings. And all these years, I had it like not easy. But I trusted God that one day everything will be okay and everything will be alright. And I mean, at least like the last point where everything will be alright is when we will be in heaven with Him, right? Yeah. But how does it work? How does it work to start a relationship with God? Who knows that? They gotta look me. This is me, even though it's a boy. Okay? Oh, this is all of you. Yeah, you can see yourself there. And we are separated from God because of our sins. You know, we're separated because like unintentionally we do like even more sins. Even sometimes we don't want to, right? Sometimes we don't want to talk back to our mom, but I don't know, something's in the mood, and then we're like not a good listener, right? But you know, God thought of that problem because He wants to be really close of us to us. And he was like, okay, maybe my son Jesus, maybe I can send my son Jesus and he will make everything good. And Jesus did. Jesus went to earth. He he was born as a little child. I think you all know that, right? Christmas time. He came to the world and he grew up and he took all of our sins onto him. Like every back talking, every lying, everything that like when we're mean or something. He took that all on his shoulders and he died for it. But God brought him back to life because he's gonna live in us, right? When we invite him to us. So Jesus makes a bridge between us and God, right? Like we don't have to care about those sins anymore because Jesus died for it. Jesus took it all. And this is how we can go to God and talk to him and can pray to him without caring about all the bad things we did maybe in the past because he took care of it. Yeah. And that is the end of the story. If you wanna invite God into your heart, you can talk to Teacher Jenny or Teacher Song. Yeah, if you want to do that, okay? Or even to your parents today in the evening. Yeah, what do you want to say?
What do we do with the potatoes?
You can give them back to me, or you can fry them today. Whatever you want to do. You can remember that. That's how my grandfather survived.
Can you imagine hiding it in your hair?
You can tell your parents. That's how like my grandfather survived, because my mother put potatoes in his hair and